Welcome back, everyone. Your little Captain Give It Up has returned for another video for you guys today. And guys, it is finally here. Alex Langton, I'm talking to you. You know who you are. This video has been a long one coming, and it's been a long one in the remaking series. But after finally getting the story together, because my storytelling has gotten much better since the last time I did this, and finally after getting all the characters that we wanted and doing a lot of other things, it's finally here. What if Deku was raised by storyshift Chara, storyshift Frisk? I'm gonna call the character Chara because I don't freaking know how to actually pronounce the name. Chara, Kara. I straight up don't know how to say it, so I'm just gonna say Chara because that's exactly how it looks like to me, and I don't know how else to say it. So, with this being said, I already got the backstory and everything ready, but still, if I can do the intro and the outro this time, then it will be played. But just for the sake of it, I want you guys to hear it again. Let's do it. Y'all ready? I'm ready. Cue the intro. Okay, so we are back here again. Once before. Now, how would this story go? What if Deku was raised by storyshift Chara and storyshift Frisk? Now, let me explain. Basically, this whole world takes place in the, well, you guys should already know this, the world of storyshift Undertale, and how this would go, it would become the best ending. You know, there's a good ending, bad ending, a neutral ending, but in this world, this world's Frisk got what was called the best ending, and let me explain to you how that happened. Okay, so real quick for this one, Asriel, Asriel doesn't exist with Chara yet in this time. Doesn't exist with Chara in this timeline. So it's just storyshift Chara that was raised by Asgore and Toriel. And yeah, screw it, they were younger for this one. I'm gonna say they're like not in their 40s, but they're in their okay, they were in their 20s, and so a few years later. Okay, they were in their early 20s when Chara had fell down, the first fallen human, and they decided to raise Chara. That was still a thing. That still became a thing. It was still normal. So, but it's in this one that Chara had actually never died. Oh, I'm trying to get the goddamn story right and going together. So Asriel doesn't exist yet in this timeline. So, okay, the years would go by to where monsters and humans. The backstory is still the same. Monsters were sealed away by humans because of a great war. 7 great magicians sealed them away, yada, yada, yada. All that crap happened. Okay, so here we go. Here we go for this one. So, I'm going to say like about 10... I'm trying to... You guys got to give me a minute. I'm trying to make them within the same age range. Screw it. I'm going to just say like 2 to 3 years later... Wait, no. I gotta, keep the story about how the fallen humans came down. So, okay, the story of the rest of the fallen humans that died before Frisk came along, that still happened the same, but except they didn't actually die in this one. They continued living in the underground, that is until Frisk came along. And, okay, because I gotta make it to where this stuff is, like, actually natural, I gotta tie a little bit of the other Undertale rules into this one so that Frisk and Chara don't actually have the same soul. I know that they're supposed to have the same soul, but just give me a minute here. Just give me a minute so I can fix this. So I'm adding glitch tail logic into this one. So Frisk's soul is actually the soul wait, no. Yeah. Sorry. Chara's soul is the manifestation of hate, aka a pink soul. Frisk is the only one with the determination soul, aka the red one. So that's how it's going to go down for this one story here. So yeah, Frisk came down. The story of storyshift still happened as the same. Frisk got the true ending, but the best ending. But since Asriel doesn't exist here, the barrier ended up actually being broken by all the human souls combined. Because like I said, the fallen humans never actually died here. So, monsters were allowed to roam free upon the surface yet again and be reintegrated back into society. But because of this, it was a lot harder. But I'm going to just do a little bit of a time skip because, like, about a decade later, storyshift Chara and storyshift Frisk. My God, it's really hard for me to say that line. So, it's been a decade and a half later. So, like, about 15 to 12 years. Pretty much they're practically grown-ups at this point. And because their genders are never specifically based on what you want, I'll let you believe what you want to believe. So with this being said, monsters were reintegrated back into society, and because of this, magic does exist in the realm of the world now with the realm of quirks. Now there are quirks and magic, and monster human relationships do become a thing. So there are some humans with monster parents that also have magic in this world. So a lot of this stuff does go down, and it's a very peaceful time. And within this time, there is a boy. There is a boy born within this world who had both. And I mean both quirk and magic. And it is a very rare thing. And let me explain to you why. Quirks and magic actually usually are not able to overlap each other. Now let me explain to you why. Quirks basically are a genetic thing within DNA, causing DNA strands to break off. But also originally quirks are actually a disease. And magic is something is like purifying that makes up the monster entirely. So also monsters don't really have physical bodies to actually contain determination, aka like a human soul, which is still a thing that exists in the monster world, within the human world, that was actually spread worldwide. So human quirk and monster magic cannot mix together because they would outright conflict with each other. Fundamentally they do, and it would end up killing the individual. Like, tests have been shown that they actively cannot merge together. But this one boy can. And because of his magic and his quirk energy, he was seen as a freak by his parents and put up for adoption. That is until this boy had actually escaped the adoption center and just roamed the streets. Everyone had turned a blind eye to him because, there are heroes here. Also, some monsters actually did become heroes, so they're not just humans. So, that's still a thing. But this young green-haired boy was actually ignored by everyone until he had bumped into, in this case scenario, he bumped into Frisk. This child bumped into Frisk, so yeah. Anyway, with this being said, Frisk had saw this wandering child and had asked where his parents were. Yeah, but the boy didn't actually say anything, barely said anything. And that is until, Frisk ended up taking the boy home to Chara. And, it turns out that another kid was already there. And it turns out he was a little goat boy. And this goat boy was named Azrael. Azrael Dreamer. So basically, he's Frisk's. Chara's little brother. Basically Chara's little younger very much younger brother by 10 years or so. I'm trying to skip ahead to this stuff because I don't want it to take forever on this, because explaining the backstory is just a whole bunch of can of worms, y'all. Whole bunch of can of worms. But anyway, yeah. Chara is 25, 20, 25, 23 to 25, around that range. Azrael is straight 10 years old. Maybe 11. 10 to 11. I'll give you that. There. But anyway, they bringing this boy home, and Azrael's already there, and he sees this green-haired boy that Frisk brings home with them. Gee, see why? This is why. It's a lot harder to discern because I have no gender. I'm just gonna say whatever floats my mind. If it slips my mind their gender, if I just say he or she, don't freaking care about what I say, okay? Just let me have this here. It's difficult, okay? I'm tired. I'm sorry. Anyway, moving on. Frisk brings this green-haired boy home with them, and Azrael seems to notice and to be happy because he gets to have a playmate. Because all the younger monsters in this one, they still are a thing, but Monster Kid are actually pretty much grown up at this point, because like I said, 10 years have passed since then. So pretty much they're already grown. Azrael is the only small kid besides, monster human hybrids and all that stuff. But still, whew. That is a giant mouthful. Anyway, moving on with this. Azrael walks up to Izuku, and starts talking to him and everything. But Izuku barely squeaks out any words. It's like he's not much of a talker at all. Pretty much ... dialogue. What Frisk and Chara, what Frisk would usually get in the sense of, the Undertale game. Pretty much being silent the whole time. And not really saying much except limited options. So, anyway. So with this being said, Azrael would always try to talk to Izuku, but nothing would seem to work. That is until Frisk and Chara decide that they are going to be taking care of Izuku. And Izuku would pretty much nod his head in agreement to this because, well, he doesn't really talk much. And so with this being said, they take him to a doctor, and pretty much the doctor reveals that he was an orphan and all that, so they get the adoption papers set up and all that. So happy times, kumbaya, all that it works out well. Okay, so let me explain here. Azrael and Izuku are pretty much going to be raised as brothers in this one because, well, technically it is a family thing. So, adoption kid, Azrael is technically his uncle, if we're going to speak in the family matter sort of way. But at the same time, Azrael's like pretty much the same age as him. So they're going to see each other more as brothers than like nephew and like uncle in that way. So, doesn't really matter. Just continuing on with this stuff here. All right, anyway, moving on. So Azrael would pretty much keep talking to Izuku, trying to bond with him in many ways. Izuku would, it would be the dialogue that we get in the regular Undertale. They're making a camera, they're like recording their lives and everything, but there is no prank to like, Golden Flower to get them killed or anything. It's all actually happy, fun times here. It's nothing bad. It's a fun time. It's all a good time. That is until like Azrael would see Izuku showing off his actual powers. So this would kind of turn out to be a bad situation, but at the same time, kind of not. So let me show you a little bit I'm going to give you a taste. And the taste I'm giving you is this right here. Pretty much cross Chara and all that. Don't worry, guys. There's a lot more I need to get into, but it's, not here yet. That's like mostly waiting for part 2. Right now, I'm trying to give you guys a great outlook on the story. Because like I said, my storytelling has gotten better, but it's still not the best. So I'm really trying to give you guys... I'm trying to give you a good story here. I'm not the best at this, but I'm trying. I'm trying. So Azrael would walk in to see Izuku using his magic, which is pretty much across Chara's powers outright. But also his powers are very much corrupted because of his quirk. So when Izuku tries to use his magic, he looks different. As Azrael would call out to him, Izuku? As Izuku would turn his head, he would look at Azrael with this face right here. And it's his magic and quirk like colliding with one another because they're corrupting each other. So pretty much Izuku is like a corrupted kind of kid in a way. But he's not evil in any sense. This is just how he is, how his biology works. Azrael would get kind of scared. And Izuku's already thinking that Azrael's about to judge him. But not really. Azrael's kind of in the same page as him. He's already powerful enough. Because, like, God of Hyperdeath and all that crap. But, Azrael can't do it willingly. Because that would just make him too OP from the start. But still, it's a pretty good image that they got going on. Alright. So, it's still a fun time. It's still pretty great. Anyway, back to it. Okay, so how would this exactly go? Azrael would pretty much be telling Izuku to not be ashamed of his power, as it's something pretty cool. He actually thinks that this is a very nice thing. And, well, Izuku's magic and quirk collide with one another, but they actually can come together to create the overwrite button. And that's Izuku, and that is Izuku's quirk. Well, okay. Izuku's raw quirk, if you want to know what it is, it's pretty much the powers of reload. Izuku's quirk is called reload/reset. So pretty much it's the Undertale's logic. You die, you get to come right back. And it doesn't really matter how many times. Like, no one seems to, and the thing is, no one is going to remember that because Izuku is the only one with this passive ass ability. So it's pretty scary and crazy. But the thing is, once Izuku comes back from the dead, if his quirk and magic comes together, his overwrite option will come up, and Izuku will get to rewrite the timeline, basically. Seeing as how he's seen your moves before, he can pretty much overwrite all of that stuff to remake whatever he wants to happen. So pretty much, if Izuku can remake it as to where... once he reloads back into the world, when you're about to use that power again, Izuku can pretty much say no. He overrides it and makes something completely different happen. He can pretty much make you explode or kill you outright or make something else happen in the world for a different outcome. So pretty much timeline manipulation, if you want to give it that much of a passive ability, but I don't know what to rationally call it. So that's just my outlook on everything. But it's still not all of his powers. He's still got a lot left in store. So let me keep it going with that. But it's time to meet the rest of Izuku's family. Because like I said, well, one thing for sure, the Skeleton Brothers still do exist. And and Sans and Toriel are still friends in this one. So Izuku going over to meet them is actually a pretty plausible thing. Bam! Here we are. Like, okay, don't read too much into the looks, okay? It's still a thing, so don't worry about that. Anyway, what happens in this situation is fairly simple. Izuku meets Sans and Papyrus, and they pretty much show off their moves and the Gaster Blasters, until it turns out that Izuku himself can copy that crap too. You guys heard me right. Izuku copies Sans and Papyrus's Gaster Blaster to create his own. And I told you about Izuku's quirk, but I didn't tell you about his magic specifically. There's different types of magic, but Izuku's is quite rare. His magic is known as copy magic. Pretty much, whatever Izuku sees another being can do, he can copy it. It's not a copy quirk. He can't copy other people's quirks. No, he cannot. But he can copy other beings' type of magic. So if Izuku were to see a specific type of magic, like aka Toriel's fire magic, Izuku would be able to copy that and pretty much add it to his own repertoire, as seen with the Gaster Blasters and all that. But then he meets Sans and Papyrus's father, Gaster himself, and oh boy, that's a lot of powers that Izuku's going to be able to copy. So yeah, Gaster is still the same thing. He still meets Gaster with all of his powers, all of his 7 different hands, which reigns in different powers. I'll get to the 7 hands, different powers, like in the next part. We're not diving too deep into this. It's just Izuku being able to copy like all these monsters' abilities. Any monsters with magic and with special abilities, Izuku can copy. And oh boy, his magic is powerful. All right. Anyway, back to it. So the thing is with this one here, Izuku and Azrael pretty much grow up like brothers, like normal, and they still do go to school like they normally do, until they meet this one like very loud kid who declares he's going to be the #1 hero. And yes, this is Bakugo. I know they met Bakugo really, really late in this story, but Azrael never really had the courage to walk up and start talking to people because he's kind of shy and very much a crybaby. And Izuku was always a loner, always the quiet guy. He never really said much. Bakugo was the one who actually walked up to them. And pretty much, walking up to Azrael and Izuku, conversation would pretty much go like this. Like, hey, hey, you two are always the quiet ones. Why don't you ever say anything? Azrael would be the one speaking for Izuku because Izuku doesn't talk. I mean, he can. He just chooses not to. Most of the time. Azrael pretty much just says he's not much of he's pretty shy, and well, Izuku here is not much of a people's person, and he doesn't talk much anyway. Well, Bakugo just asks, what's your, he looks at Azrael and he can see he's a monster. What's your type of magic? Azrael said he has actually a lot of type of magic, but the most basic one he has as he unsheathes his fire is fire magic. Okay, average. What about you? What's your quirk or magic? Because Izuku does look different. As Izuku would pretty much just show off his magic abilities, and it's also fire. He doesn't show everything. Both fire. Okay, not that bad. As Bakugo pretty much, he hangs around Izuku and Azrael a lot more because he can tell they're more the stronger people in the school. So that's what draws Bakugo, Izuku, and Azrael to form a group and everything. And Izuku was never much the talker. He was always the down pedal. But he was, little do they know, he was actually the most powerful one. Well, kind of behind Azrael. Actually, they were kind of equal in terms of power. But if Azrael and Izuku were to go full force, Izuku would actually end up being the winner. Because, the determination soul, you can't really beat that in the Undertale verse in the games. Because it's always power of bullshit and all that. Anyway, moving on. God, I really hope I can do my outro and intro. If I can't, I'm going to be mad as hell. Alright, anyway, moving on with this. What else is going on? Oh, yeah. Continuing throughout the life and everything, Izuku does become more open and he does talk a bit more. But it's just like, he does talk, but he doesn't do it a lot. It's okay, it'll be like this. Instead of being instead of Izuku being almost mute, to the point where you think he couldn't talk, it's become quite rare for him to speak. He does speak, but it's rare for him if he does, because pretty much you've gotten used to him being so silent. You can pretty much discern what he wants or what he's trying to say to you just by looking at him. So it's fine. It's still rare for him to talk though. So time passes by like a few years, and they've pretty much grown up. So moving on, grown up Izuku now. All right, we're here. So this is like the end of the high school arc and regular shit like that. Teacher says the same thing. I have recommendation papers here for the rest of you guys. Throws them in the air. But why bother? I already know you all want to be heroes. And the thing is, back then Izuku really didn't want to be a hero. He honestly didn't. But Azrael was the one who put the idea in his mind, saying that they would be actually great heroes, and with their potential and with their power, they could do a lot of great things. And also, this was also a convincing factor for Izuku, like to not let people end up like him, like abandoned and everything else. Azrael has a good heart, and he was able to convince Izuku, like, Izuku, you don't want people ending up like how you were once before we found you, were you? Being abandoned by people because they were seen as different? We have the power to change that. Let's change people's mind on monsters and humans and hybrids. We can be different. Just give it a chance. As Izuku would look at Azrael and just nod, that would be his response to saying, okay. So with that being said, they want to be heroes now. Izuku kind of has less motivation for it, but Azrael would always, pump Izuku up. Pause on that one. He would always just motivate him, always give him a drive. So Izuku wouldn't be completely hopeless on this fact. He wouldn't give up on the idea. It's still there, but it's more like a drag for him. Like, that's how Izuku views being a hero. He just gives a long, heavy-winded sigh. More like a drag, if anything. So, with this being said, okay, the school day ends. Izuku, Azrael, and Bakugo pretty much just state their plans. What are they going to do and whatnot. Uh-oh. God damn it. Out of my face. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I apologize. And Bakugo says he's going to train for the next year or so. It was 10 months, but I always change it to a year. Fight me for it. Anyway, moving on with that fact, Azrael says he's going to train too, as he looks at Izuku saying, will he help him? And Izuku, of course, is going to help Azrael, so he nods his head. So anyway, they continue on. And since pretty much they're practically grown-ups at this point, okay, I'm trying to think here. They don't really take yes, they do take the overpass, but since there's no bullying in this scene, Izuku wouldn't have stopped to grab his notebook or anything, so there really wasn't nothing holding him up. So they would have walked under the overpass just fine without the sludge villain showing up because they got there earlier. Because I don't understand why people don't mention that more. Because if Izuku left immediately to go under the overpass, it wouldn't have he wouldn't have met All Might, or the sludge villain incident wouldn't have happened. I think people need to give that an honorable mention. The only reason that happened to Izuku is because Bakugo threw his notebook out and Izuku was looking for it, and he spent so much time sulking that, he went around to get it and then he went back. So that probably costed him some time. But them going under the overpass immediately, it would actually negate all that stuff from happening. So with that being said, you need to initiate a time frame between Izuku, getting a notebook and all that stuff. Or you just need to initiate a time frame to where Izuku can meet up with All Might, because if he goes too early, then he's going to miss all that. And obviously, going too late isn't an option because the area would be closed off and whatnot. Well, whatever. Because All Might would have already dealt with the sludge villain. All right, sorry to ransack on that for a moment. They got home. That's the point. So anyway, moving on with this crazy factor here. This is what would go on. Azrael would get home saying Chara, Frisk, we're home. All that. Welcome back, you two. Was school great? Yep, it was fun. Their last day. And then they asked them what are they going to do for the year. And Azrael said he's going to train because now it's time to go to UA. Oh boy. So for the next year, they would train their abilities. And let me tell you now, Izuku has amassed a lot of magical powers because of his hybrid nature and his crazy magical prowess and his magical potential. He's very, very strong. And P.S., Azrael has reached his hyper god of death status. Yeah, he's reached this state at this point because, it was about time. But since, like I said, Izuku can copy magical powers, he pretty much copied Azrael's Hyper God of Death's form into his own specific mode. So, yeah, Izuku's pretty OP and powerful. But I can't really. But you just know that the training did go as much as it did, and they both benefited very well from it. So moving on from this. All right, so the year of training went by just as normal. I'm not really going to dive too deep into that because I'm going to just let you guys think that up in your head. So with that being said, it's time for the entrance exam. We need to get this going. We're already at 25 minutes. So how this would go is fairly simple, actually. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to think here. Oh, I got it. I got a good ideas now. So Azrael and Izuku would end up going to the entrance exam like normal. The written test would go about the same. No one cares about the written exam. No one cares about that. What you guys came here for is the story and how this fight's gonna go. Let's do this. Time to excite you guys now. Because of this, Azrael looked at Izuku saying, "This is our moment, Izuku." Wait, no. We're going to be here. This is our beginning story. You ready for this? Izuku would just give him a thumbs up and a nod, and Baka would show up. There you two are. I was beginning to think you wouldn't show up. As Azrael, the one who turned around, Izuku just glances over his shoulder and sees Bakugo. And, Bakugo, there you are. As this has become a cool thing. Oh, man. Okay, basically, Bakugo did come up with nicknames for Izuku and Azrael. Okay, I'm just gonna make a funny joke here. He calls Azrael Goat Tea. It's a freaking funny homage and a joke to what I'm trying to say. But he pretty much calls damn. I just lost the nickname. Crap. You know what? Screw it. He calls Deku what is it? Fuck it. He just calls him No Show. Because it's ironic because he's always showing up, but he just doesn't speak. He called No Show, Goat Tea. It's pretty funny puns in there. I just had to add a little bit of Sans humor in there. I know it's terrible, but who cares? All right? All right, anyway, written test, no one cares about that. Time for the combat exam. Azrael, Izuku, and Bakugo all go to different zones because I got to focus on different of them. But you guys came here for Izuku. As we're Hyper God of Death, you guys already know what he can do if you played the Undertale games. You already know. Chaos Buster, Chaos Saber, the blades, the stars, all that stuff. You already know about that. It's time for Izuku's time. It's Izuku's time to shine. Let's do this. Hold on a second. I gotta drink some water. I'm running out of voice power. Anyway, combat exam. Let's do this. Izuku, pretty much just stands there. Everyone, noticed that he's not really speaking or doing anything. He's just standing there. This guy is kind of weird. But anyway, it's time to begin. Let's go. The door is open. President Mike says go. And like usual, like you guys see here, Izuku brings up his magic... Wait, no. And actually, he conjures up his magic abilities and it's time to go. And what he does is very cool. It's time. Izuku conjures up his magic, and because it's almost like a magic tail, he conjures up red knives around him. And they're magic though, so they won't do any harm unless Izuku intends to cause harm to something, so he can control them very well. And now with his purple sword and shield in hand, he rushes out to the battlefield, cutting up robots left and right. And Izuku's using a lot more magic than he needs to, even conjuring up fireballs and throwing them at the robots here. And he's actually doing very well. He's one hell of a fighter, I'll tell you that for sure. Conjuring up gaster blasters too and just firing them off everywhere. Dang, being able to create weapons with magic and doing a lot of stuff here. Pretty good. But that is until he starts using Azrael's Chaos Sabers and Chaos Busters and, meteor stars. Everyone starts to wonder what is this guy's quirk. Oh, he must be a monster hybrid, which means he has magic. Which is true. Well, yeah, because Izuku's quirk doesn't really tie into this very well, because he can't really die or get harmed in a sense. But then again, a little timeline manipulation won't hurt anybody. So time to use the overwrite button. So with Izuku's quirk, he uses his timeline manipulation. You know what? That's what I'm gonna call it for the remainder of this series. Timeline manipulation. Don't care what you guys would call it. Timeline interference, whatever. Timeline manipulation. And what he does is pretty much he overwrites the timeline to where the robots are destroyed, and basically they're added to his point. So with this being said, all the robots in the rest of the area just, boom, explode. And they're added onto Izuku's point racket. Even the 0-pointer, that wasn't even out, that Nezu just pressed the button of, completely explodes and gets destroyed. Easy. And that's the test over. So, the heroes have no idea what just happened, by the way. But they do know that it had to do something with Izuku, because his points racket just shot up like crazy. And so he had to have something to do with the robots being destroyed. So, of course, they allow him in, but they're not going to tell him that. It's time to let the letter come in beforehand. But you guys already know. Who am I kidding? Izuku gets his acceptance letter as the #1 contender. Asriel got #2, like, right behind Izuku by a few points. And Bakugo got #3. That was pretty much average. So, with all that being cut and dry on that one hand... what else? You know what? They get invited into UA because it's, 2 weeks pass, they get their uniforms on, and it's time to go. But so they open the door to Class 1A, and they walk in saying hello, but Izuku just raises his hand up, as what would be a hi. And that, guys, right there is where I'm going to end it for now. And what we need right now, guys, you know what? I'm tired of doing stuff for free, but if Alex, you guys want specific videos, you're going to have to get the like goals up on them. And I'm setting a like goal, like I said before, 10 likes. This is 10 likes because our channel is stagnating and we're not moving. We've been stuck at the 350s for too long. We've been stuck here. We've been stuck in the 300s for a long time. And if you guys can't remember, let me go to my community and show you. No, that was the live stream. Nope. I need to get back to the Pokemon What If. You know what? I'm going to do that. Hold on. Moving on. Look. 6 months. It's been half a dang year. Half a year when we hit 300. Come on, y'all. What's going on? We're stuck here. We're stagnating. Why are we stagnating? We shouldn't be stagnating this hard. So, you guys want your videos to continue? Want your specific videos to continue? It's time to get those like goals on. Any videos I post that by myself that no one's asking for, I'll just post random parts whenever I feel like it. But if you guys yourself want specific videos, want specific parts to come out, then it's like goals. You know what? I'm also going to add a subscriber goal. So, if you guys want to, if you really want a part 2 to this, you know what? We need 5 more subscribers. Get this channel to 360 subs, and I'll continue part 2. And 10 likes on it. It may be a tall order, but we got to get the channel moving. This channel needs to live on. So, other than that, guys, y'all know what to do at this point. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Alex Langton, you already know. 360 subs and 10 likes on this part 1, and you will get your part 2. I promise you that. With that being said, peace!